Welcome to the Creative Commons RX podcast. Before diving into this episode, I want to ensure we're all on the same page. This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.
Welcome back to the deep dive. And I have to be honest, I'm looking at the stack of research we've got for today, and wow.
It's a bit intense, isn't it?
A bit. We've got toxicology reports, ER protocols, some really dense physiology slides. And it reads less like a medical curriculum and, I don't know, more like a script for a body horror movie.
It does get a little visceral, you're right.
It really does. Because we're talking about a topic that usually gets framed in a very specific, often judgmental way.
Right.
We think of it as a battle of willpower or craving or just wanting something too much.
Right.
But the science on the table today says that's completely wrong. We are talking about withdrawal.
It's a massive topic. And you're right, the first thing we have to do is sort of strip away the social baggage. If you really want to understand withdrawal, you have to stop thinking about addiction or bad choices just for a moment and start thinking about mechanics.
The phrase that really jumped out at me from the intro notes was physiological revolt.
That is the perfect way to frame it. Withdrawal isn't a behavior. It is a system crash. Your body has been running this complex software update to handle a specific toxic chemical environment.
Okay.
And then suddenly that environment changes. The software doesn't just glitch, it completely fails.
So our mission today is to look under the hood of that crash. We want to understand the mechanics of why quitting a substance physically hurts, why it can make you sick, and why, in some very specific cases we'll get to, it can actually kill you.
Right. We're going from the morning coffee headache all the way up to life-threatening delirium.
And to do that, you said we have to be really precise with our language. Because people, myself included, we mix up three very different things all the time. Tolerance, addiction, and withdrawal.
All the time. But physiologically, they are distinct mechanisms. Let's just quickly break them down.
Please.
Addiction is behavioral. It's a complex disorder defined by that compulsive seeking of a substance, even when there are terrible consequences. You can actually be addicted without being physically dependent, and vice versa.
Okay. And tolerance.
Tolerance is just math. It's a shift in the dose-response curve. You used to need one beer to feel buzzed. Now you need 3. Your body has adapted, so you need more drug to get the main effect.
Which brings us to the main event, withdrawal. And the notes have a very strict sort of 2-part definition for this.
A true withdrawal syndrome requires 2 things.
Yeah.
First, you need a pre-existing physiological adaptation. Your actual cells have physically changed their structure.
Like, for real.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
They've grown new receptors, they've altered their DNA expression, all to accommodate the drug. And then second, the concentration of that drug has to drop.
It's that adaptation part that really blew my mind. The notes describe it as the body fighting a ghost.
It's the best analogy I've ever heard. Imagine you're pushing against a heavy door that someone is holding shut from the other side.
Okay.
You're the body. The person holding the door is the drug. To keep things balanced, you have to push really hard. That's the adaptation.
Yeah.
You're bracing your muscles, digging your heels in. Now, what happens if the person on the other side suddenly vanishes? They just step away.
I go flying through the doorway. I crash.
You crash. Because you are still pushing against a force that isn't there anymore. That is withdrawal. The drug is gone, but the adaptation, the bracing, is still there.
This helps explain one of the outliers in the notes that confused me, the crack crash. You hear about people coming down off a cocaine binge, sleeping for days, feeling depressed. But the text says that's not a withdrawal syndrome.
It's a crucial nuance. Cocaine is a stimulant. It works by dumping all your neurotransmitters dopamine, mostly into the synapse. It just squeezes the sponge dry.
So the tank is empty?
The tank is completely empty. The crash is just depletion. You feel lethargic and awful because you literally have no fuel left. But, and this is the key part, Your body hasn't necessarily re-engineered its receptors to push back against the cocaine the same way.
So if I gave a crashing user more cocaine, it might not even work.
It might not fix the problem, no. Whereas with a true withdrawal, you give the drug back, and the symptoms stop almost instantly. The key fits the lock, the system stabilizes.
Okay, that makes sense. So for true withdrawal, the really dangerous kind, we have to talk about this seesaw. This seems to be the core model for everything.
The seesaw is the holy grail of understanding the central nervous system. Your brain is in a constant battle to keep a level playing field between two opposing forces, excitation and inhibition.
The gas pedal and the brake pedal.
Exactly. On the gas side, you have glutamate. It makes neurons fire, keeps you awake, alert, moving. On the brake side, you have GABA. That calms things down, prevents your brain from, short-circuiting into a seizure.
And in a healthy brain, that seesaw is level.
Ideally, yes. Homeostasis.
So let's apply this to the most dangerous category in the notes, alcohol.
Okay, so alcohol, along with benzodiazepines like Valium, are depressants. They mimic GABA. So when you drink, you're piling a heavy weight onto the brake side of the seesaw. You're chemically sedated.
But the brain hates being unbalanced.
It hates it. So if you're a chronic drinker, if that brake pedal is pressed down day after day, the brain starts to adapt. It engages these genomic mechanisms, literally changing its DNA expression to print more gas pedals. It upregulates its excitatory receptors.
So it's trying to rev the engine loud enough just to feel normal.
Precisely. A functional alcoholic is walking around with a brain that is screaming at full volume just to feel normal against the constant weight of the alcohol.
And then one day, they stop drinking. The external brake is removed.
But the engine is still redlining. The seesaw just slams down onto the excitatory side. And that is what we call CNS excitation. It's a glutamate storm. Your brain is hyperactive to a dangerous degree.
This brings us to the dangerous one. The notes really highlight that GABA-A withdrawal from alcohol, from benzos, is unique because it can actually kill you.
It is the only category of withdrawal that is routinely fatal if it's left untreated. And it's all because of that unchecked excitation.
So walk us through what that looks like, because I think most people just picture the shakes.
The shakes or tremors, that's just the beginning. That's your nervous system just vibrating with excess energy. But as that seesaw slams down harder, you get autonomic hyperactivity.
The automatic systems.
The stuff you don't think about, heart rate, blood pressure, temperature, it all goes haywire.
Yeah.
You get tachycardia, your heart's hitting 140 beats per minute while you're just lying in bed. Your blood pressure shoots through the roof. You start sweating diaphoresis so much you soak the sheets.
And the worst case scenario is delirium tremens. The DTs.
The DTs are the nightmare. This usually happens about 2 to 4 days after the last drink. It's not just shaking, it's a complete break from reality. You're delirious, confused, having these vivid, terrifying hallucinations. And physically, that autonomic instability can lead to cardiovascular collapse. Your heart just gives out.
There's a concept in this section that I found really disturbing. Kindling.
It's a very good metaphor. The data is clear on this.
Right.
Withdrawal gets progressively worse each time you go through it.
So if I quit drinking, then relapse, then quit again. The second quit is harder.
Much harder. And more dangerous. Neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
The brain's ability to change. It works against you here. The brain learns the withdrawal pathway. It gets better at it.
It's becoming more efficient at having a seizure.
Exactly. A person who just had mild shakes the first time they quit might have a full-blown grand mal seizure the second or third time, even if they drank the same amount.
Wow. That paints a really bleak picture of the relapse and recovery cycle.
It is. It's why medical management is so critical. You can't just tell people to tough it out. Toughing it out allows that kindling to happen.
Before we move off GABA, the notes mention GHB. That's a club drug, right?
Mostly, yeah. The scary thing there is just the speed. Alcohol withdrawal takes days to peak. GHB has a very short half-life. You can go from feeling high to full-blown withdrawal psychosis in like 2 to 4 hours. It's incredibly rapid and aggressive.
Let's pivot to the other big one, the one dominating the headlines, opioids. The notes call this one the painful one.
Right. If GABA withdrawal is like a fire 2-inch electricity, opioid withdrawal is like the worst flu you've ever had, multiplied by 10, combined with a panic attack.
But here's the contrast that I found so interesting. Opioid withdrawal feels like you're dying, but the notes say it's actually rarely life-threatening.
Correct. In alcohol withdrawal, your brain is seizing. In opioid withdrawal, your organs are mostly fine. Your mental status is normal. You're not delirious. You know exactly who you are and where you are. You're just completely, utterly miserable.
So what's the seesaw doing here? Is it a similar mechanism?
Similar principle, but a different location. Opioids work by inhibiting a specific part of your brainstem called the locus coeruleus,
The blue spot.
the blue spot. Think of it as your brain's alarm clock. It produces norepinephrine and adrenaline. Opioids hit the snooze button on that alarm.
So the brain adapts by building a louder alarm.
That is exactly what happens. Through the CAMP pathway, the brain basically installs massive amplifiers to get that adrenaline signal out past the opioid blockade.
So when the drug wears off,
The snooze button is gone, but the amplifiers are still maxed out. You get a norepinephrine storm. The alarm isn't just ringing, it's blaring through a stadium sound system.
and that explains the symptoms. The notes mentioned piloerection.
Goosebumps. That's actually where the phrase cold turkey comes from. Your skin looks like the skin of a plucked turkey because of that adrenaline response.
I never knew that. And the yawning, that seems so specific.
It's a classic sign. If a patient tells me they're not withdrawing, but they can't stop yawning and their eyes are watering lacrimation, I know their locus coeruleus is screaming.
So while it might not kill you directly,
The suffering is so acute, so bone deep, that it becomes the driving force for continued use. People will do anything to make it stop. That's the real danger.
let's touch on the outliers. These are the ones that surprise me. We have baclofen, a muscle relaxer.
It is. It works on GABA B receptors. And people do not respect baclofen enough.
Why not?
Because the withdrawal involves calcium channels. And if you stop it abruptly, say an implanted pump fails, it is catastrophic. Harder to treat than alcohol withdrawal. You get rhabdomyolysis. Your muscles literally break down. Kidney failure, organ failure, coma. It's terrifying.
And what about the blood pressure meds, like clonidine?
Another seesaw lesson. Clonidine lowers blood pressure by telling the brain to turn down the adrenaline. It's an artificial brake.
So the brain adapts by turning up the adrenaline pressure.
You got it. You stop your clonidine suddenly, you get sympathetic rebound, a massive hypertension crisis. You could have a stroke just from missing your meds.
Okay, we've covered the lethal and the painful. Now for the one I am currently fighting off right now. The relatable one.
Caffeine.
The world's favorite psychoactive drug.
I always thought a caffeine headache was just dehydration or something psychological. But there's a real mechanical cause here.
It's pure physics. So there's a chemical in your brain called adenosine. It builds up all day, and when it hits its receptors, it tells you, we're tired, sleep now.
And it affects blood vessels. Yes, it's a vasodilator. It opens them up. Caffeine is an imposter. It looks like adenosine, so it jams the keyhole. It blocks the receptor.
So your brain can't hear the tired signal.
Right. But your brain knows there's a ton of adenosine floating around, so what does it do? Adaptation. It grows more receptors. It sprouts extra ears to try and hear the signal over the caffeine.
So now I skip my morning coffee, the blockade is gone.
And suddenly you have a flood of adenosine, and you have twice as many receptors catching it.
So I get hit with a superdose of tired.
Fatigue, brain fog, but the headache. Remember, adenosine opens blood vessels. Caffeine clamps them shut. When the caffeine is gone, those vessels rebound. They dilate massively.
So the headache is literally from increased blood flow inside my skull.
It's a vascular event. You're feeling the mechanical pressure of those vessels stretching.
That makes me feel better about needing it. It's not addiction, it's just vascular management.
Whatever helps you wake up.
All right, we have to talk about how we fix it. Section 5 is management principles, and there seems to be a golden rule.
The rule is simple. Readministration. The body is screaming because a key is missing from a lock. The fastest way to stop the scream is to put the key back in.
But we don't give a flask of whiskey to a guy in the ER.
We used to, but it's hard to dose and toxic, so now we use the principle of cross-tolerance.
The biological hack.
It is. We know alcohol hits the GABA A receptor, so we need another drug that also hits that receptor, but is cleaner and safer. Enter benzodiazepines. Valium, Ativan.
So you're just giving the brain a different, better brake pedal?
Exactly. One that has a long half-life so it fades out slowly. We substitute the chaotic street drug for a clean medical one, and then we perform a taper. We slowly ease off the brakes so the brain has time to adapt back to normal.
It's like landing a plane instead of crashing it.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And for opioids, we do the same thing. We use methadone or buprenorphine. They touch the opioid receptor. They stop the screaming locus coeruleus, but they stabilize the seesaw so we can slowly layer it.
Now, the notes mention a shift. Symptom-triggered therapy.
This is a huge shift.
Yeah.
We used to just give everyone the same dose on a schedule. Now we use scoring systems, like the CIWA score for alcohol. We look at the patient. Were they shaking, Are they sweating? If yes, we give a dose. If no, we wait.
It's personalized medicine.
It is. And it drastically reduces the total amount of drugs we use.
I want to flag one big warning from the notes, what not to use, specifically antipsychotics for alcohol withdrawal.
Yes, this is a classic trap. A patient is yelling, hallucinating. The instinct is to give them haloperidol.
Because it calms them down.
It calms the behavior. But antipsychotics work on dopamine. They don't touch the GABA receptor, so the patient might stop yelling, but the underlying glutamate storm, the seizure risk, is still raging.
So you're putting tape over the check engine light while the car is on fire.
Worse, antipsychotics actually lower the seizure threshold. You're making the fire hotter, but turning off the alarm. You have to treat the mechanism, not just the behavior.
This has been such an enlightening look at what's happening physically. It really strips away the judgment.
It does. It's a testament to how adaptable the human body is. It can re-engineer its own DNA expression to survive, but that same adaptability is what makes stopping so dangerous.
So if you're a listener trying to synthesize all this, what's the one big takeaway?
I'd say it's distinguishing between physiological dependence and addiction. You can have a cancer patient on high-dose opioids who is physically dependent. Their locus coeruleus has adapted. If they stop, they'll withdraw. But that doesn't mean they're addicted in the behavioral sense.
They aren't seeking it compulsively. Their body is just chemically adapted.
Exactly. Understanding withdrawal as a mechanical adaptation helps us treat it with precision and with compassion.
I want to leave you with this final thought from the deep dive. We tend to think of our brains as static, this thing we're born with. But this research shows that the brain is so incredibly plastic, it's malleable, it will physically reshape its own architecture to wrap around the chemicals we feed it.
To the point that removing the toxin becomes the toxic event.
Stability is all relative. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.